Hey guys, on this episode we talked to our SLACC chair, Dante Houben. He's also my roommate, a very good friend, and an overall very interesting person who we talked to before Christmas, but because of technical difficulties, the episode is only getting released now. It's still a banger though, so I hope you enjoy and let's get into it.
Welcome to the After Codes podcast.
Subscribe now!
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of After Codes. Here we are again. I'm grateful to be joined by Michael and Carlo, as always.
Hello, guys.
And today we have the very special guest, Dante Houben.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like a 60-year-old retired man spreading his wisdom.
We're glad we could make it feel like that tonight.
So, Dante, a little bit about you. Do you want to maybe give a brief introduction to people that might not know you that well? Like, where are you from? How old are you? To this time of the episode, Dante is also nearly turning 18. So, yeah.
Big stuff.
Yeah, big stuff.
Yes.
I'm becoming an adult tonight. That's for sure. Meaning that I'm 17 right now. Yet, if you ask me the same question in a few hours, I'd answer and I'm 18. I come from the Netherlands, from Amsterdam to be specific. Yet before coming to AC, I lived in Slovakia for 1 year in Bratislava.
Shout out Slovakia.
Yeah, as my mom works for the Dutch embassy there. And this is my second year at AC. And yeah, I look forward to elaborating more on my life, my thoughts, and more throughout the rest of this episode. So yeah, thanks for having me, boys.
Oh, thanks for coming, Dante. What are you looking forward to for this next year, being 18 years old?
Mm-hmm.
What's the plan?
What's the plan? I like that I am now, or I will be an adult soon, that I have a bit more responsibility myself. I think I'm ready for that. I'm excited for that. Other than that, it's obviously going to be a big year regardless of my age, because it's the year in which we do IB exams, graduation, potentially university, and I need to apply as well still. So there are a lot of things that are yet to happen, and a lot of things for which I'm still very excited to happen.
Dante, so what are your plans with university? Because I heard there might be a possibility for a gap year.
That's right. It can still go in many ways. It's gonna be decided or for a large part during the winter break. Yet I know for a fact I want to study industrial engineering and management. I'll go off on a tangent now, but I want to become a businessman at first, where after I want to go into politics and become Dutch Prime Minister.
Well, I think, Dante, that right now, speaking from my point of perspective and probably yours as well, the Dutch politics could definitely use someone with your, maybe with your...
Absolutely. That is definitely something which I would like to touch base on throughout this episode. Yet just to get back to what I was saying, I want to study industrial engineering and management because I want to start by going into business. And I feel like if you want to go into business, you need to have an idea. You need to be very strong in a certain subject or in a certain sector to be able to turn that into a company or to work as a company, as an expert in that field. And therefore, I wouldn't want to study a broad major, because I feel like I need to study something that is very content-based and not concept-based. And therefore, if I study engineering applied to business, I will know a lot about energy, about the actual products of the companies which I'd look into, which I built. And therefore, I'd know a lot more than if I'd study business, in which I just learned the concepts of how business works. And then this study is also linked to management, which will be very helpful, as it'll help me learn how to run a company and how to run a team of people, and hopefully how to run a country. which is what my ultimate goal is. I know it sounds very ambitious.
No, I think for my sets as well. I said this as well. I think essentially, we're here at the school, and I think like to some extent, I said when I had same kind of thoughts as usual, obviously, but I also want to first make a name for myself, then essentially also go into German politics, because I also believe that it's needed, and I think that you always need new people at the top who have experience in different places.
And the world is for the ambitious and the risk takers. And that's why you can never put your bar high enough. And yeah, as you said before, we just had the Dutch elections. A far right, yet simultaneously very socialist guy won.
How does that work? How can you be far right,
So
a socialist?
basically what he did is he presented himself.
Let's quickly say who he is.
Yeah, his name is Geert Wilders. He is the leader of the Party for Freedom. That's what it's called.
Has he been in politics?
He's been in politics for about 20 years. Or he started his party 20 years ago. He's the founder of his party. And the party used to be an extremely opposing party that would always be causing a lot of trouble in the parliament, that would always want to oppose all of the rules that were being put in place. Yet this year they presented themselves a lot nicer. They were a lot easier. They were up for way more debates. They were also
so they kind of switch face.
They switch face, or they switched the tone at which they were bringing the points, because the points they were presenting remained the same. Yet the tone at which he presented them became different, and that is one of the reasons why he just won this election. Yet there are many reasons for that, because for some reason, many people in the Netherlands think right now that they aren't doing well, or the economy isn't doing good, or the quality of life isn't good. Whilst in truth that isn't necessarily true, because if you look at many of our neighboring countries, we are doing much better in every single way. Yet somehow this is how the majority of the Dutch population feels, and he presented himself as a hero of this majority by claiming that the reason why many people are having a difficult time or are suffering is because immigrants are taking their jobs and are causing higher crime rates, vandalism, and higher poverty in the Netherlands. So he said he'd start by banning all immigrants from entering the Netherlands. Then he also stated that way too much of the government's expenditure is going towards fighting climate change, and that he thinks that is an issue that should only be solved if all other issues are solved, and that he therefore wants to allocate very little money towards climate change. And he also wants to set back measures that regulate country or companies on their carbon emissions. And third of all, he said that he would heavily tax all the people that are rich or have a high income, and therefore all of the people in the Netherlands who aren't doing so good felt like he would stop immigration, which would provide them with more jobs and money. He would stop climate regulation and expenditure, which would also provide them a lot of money and opportunity. And he would tax the rich, which would create a lot of equality or more equality in the Netherlands. And therefore he won this election. So
would you say
on a humanitarian basis, he is very right-wing, because he wants to stop all immigration. He wants to ban all measures against climate change. Yet simultaneously, he's very socialist, as he wants to impose higher taxes on the rich and on high-income earners.
And would you say he's a populist? Because, like you said, that a lot of people are now complaining about him, like mostly in the school, but we have a very limited demographic here.
Absolutely.
But also in the Netherlands, I heard that all of people are not very happy about this result. So who are the people that actually voted for this guy? Is it like he targeted mostly the older part of the population, or?
Yeah, so there has been a lot of research into this due to the fact that this outcome was so surprising. Yet the result of all this research was that there was no correlation regarding the area in the Netherlands which someone was from, or their background, or their age. Yet what all people had in common is that they had the feeling that they were not doing good, either on an economic or social level. So he
Gave
targeted
them like this kind of hope.
He gave them a lot of hope by presenting them with a plan. So he mainly targeted the lower class people.
From what I've seen, there's sort of a division in the Netherlands between like rural like farmers and then people living in cities.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about that? Is it like how is it?
So the division has been created for a large part by whether we should take measures for climate change or not, because most of the people that come from rural areas have a job that is somehow related to agriculture, yet people from the urban areas don't. And therefore, the people in the urban areas think the best way to counter climate change is to shut down farms or make them more sustainable and impose tighter regulations, while the people that live in the rural areas think this is our job, our profession, this is our source of income, we should not be taxed on this.
I think,
And that creates polarization between people that live in urban places and the rural.
yeah, touching on the division part, that as Theo said, and you agreed to, Dante, that the country is very divided into basically like a few sectors. You give an interesting theory, maybe we can touch on in relation briefly. Your theory is, let me explain your theory and I'll touch on about it.
So, first of all, I think this polarization between urban people and people from the rural areas is partially created or is the result of democracy. And there are many other ways in which democracy causes a polarization between the population, because you're either for or against a stance.
No, 100%.
And you have many politicians that want to change things, and you have many parties in a parliament, and everyone has different values, everyone has a different vision of what they think the country should strive to be and what the country should change. And therefore, this democracy, although it has many benefits, does definitely create a polarization between many of the population in the Netherlands.
And then you then also think that like there should be limited no borders, so that the whole like every country kind of should, like, there should be one country, not as many, which of course is a pretty hot take.
Exactly. So yeah, I have a very idealist perspective. It's almost like a utopia, which I have in mind. It's not really related to what we were talking about before, but still, I would happily share on that. As
I think it is related, because you were talking about how the Netherlands are, for example, divided.
Yeah.
Like many other nations, like they don't agree with other nations. There are many wars going on as of now. So how would you then combine those divided sectors into one?
So yeah, we were just talking about how there was polarization within the Netherlands, yet there also is a lot of polarization within the world between various countries. And for various reasons, which I will delve into furthermore in a bit, I think the world should be one country. Now, this sounds like a utopia, which it is. We will never achieve it, but if we were to achieve it, this would solve so many issues, and that is because some issues in the world need to be tackled on a larger scale than they currently are. For example, climate change. if we really want to take a big step to fight it, we need to work as a globe. And therefore, we need one central government that has authority, that imposes tighter regulations on countries and their carbon emissions. Additionally, artificial intelligence. There are many benefits to artificial intelligence, yet it also is an extremely dangerous technology. And we as a globe need to collectively impose measures to make sure we safely utilize this technology. It doesn't make sense if a couple hundred countries impose measures to fight the bad implications of artificial intelligence, yet a few countries continue developing it. That still could cause a lot of harm to the rest of the world. Or how about space exploration? If we were to combine our knowledge, our tools, we could get way further than we currently are.
Absolutely, and I think it's also like especially as you said, like the examples you gave about like space exploration, AI technology, and all those kind of things. It is really like either it's everyone or it's really no one, because that's right. You need everyone or like to achieve those goals. Yeah, all on board with climate change, and like as you said, obviously will make a lot of things easier.
Yeah.
But I mean, also like to your idealistic point of view, as you said, I think it's very difficult to combine. Like as you said, it's impossible to put all those things together. But I think it's an interesting point of perspective looking at it.
Yeah.
From that way, and like,
Yeah.
but how would you do it? Because you have this great ideas how to put them together.
Yeah.
But now speaking from like maybe more realistic point of view.
Yeah.
How would you try to like?
Yeah. So, I've said it before. You can never put the bar too high, but this bar kind of is too high, because this is something which we'll never achieve. But a way in which we can step towards this is just investing in education on a worldwide scale, because I believe in this because of my upbringing. And I feel like many people in the UWC would have a similar idea on this.
No,
While
education
people that have had a lack of education might be very narrow-sighted, and they therefore might want to they might, because they're that narrow-sighted, they can only look towards their neighbor and see what there is to win on their neighbor's land. Yet we should work with our neighbor, and we should look beyond our neighbor to see what there is on the horizon, and try to grasp it with our neighbor instead of
Okay. No, I get your point. Like the idyllic aspect of like a humanitarian approach to solving issues, like worldwide scale, which I think is very interesting, and you definitely see it at this place for sure. But then, like the truth is, right? Obviously, you said it's like utopic and almost like unachievable. But I think the main issue is when it comes to you mentioned how working with your neighbor, goes beyond the individual aspect of solving issues. But then the truth is, like, what happens when your neighbor lives a completely different life than you do in terms of everything, like material conditions and stuff.
So there are a few more benefits to this utopic view. And that is, for example, that if the world were to be one country, we wouldn't need armies anymore. That would save us so much money. That would give us a lot of extra workforce, which could be employed somewhere else. A lot of the carbon emissions of a country are also the result of war or of military trainings. So first of all, if the world were to be one country, we would ban armies, and therefore, if one of your neighbors would be in a much better position than you were, then a war would not be a potential way to solve that issue. Yet still, I see what you're saying. It's difficult if you have the world as a country, if all countries are under one umbrella, and one region is doing much better than the other. That's true. But you have that problem now already.
Yeah, it's true.
It doesn't become worse if the world becomes one country.
But I think
It
you're
might just feel a bit more painful.
yes, but I think you're like skipping over the fact that like human nature by itself is flawed. So when you're talking about the absence of any sort of military, then you're assuming that
Like
in
the-
that scenario, humans have no
But what does
no desire
military-
for, but that you're assuming that no one will have any desire for any sort of violence and conflict.
True. But there are other ways to gain what you are looking for than having a military. Having a military is like carrying a knife to school. Does it protect you? Not really. It just increases the odds of you using it.
That's very true, but I think also we're trying to say a military also guarantees. I mean, it's also there to help in humanitarian crisis, and it's also there to like keep probably order and security in a place, like in one
in the
place.
country itself.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But you would still have police.
Yeah, no,
forces,
understand, I
etc.
understand.
You just would not have a military that is centralized around other countries and foreign
I
policy.
see what you mean. For example, like Singapore was a police state,
Yeah.
so therefore that's like maybe like
Yeah. And
It's
Costa Rica, they
Costa
do not
Rica.
have an
That's
army.
true, they don't
And
have an
are
army.
they in
no,
in
they're not
war?
lacking.
No, are they less safe? No.
No, but I feel like also then like I feel like it's very difficult. Of course, your army example is very easy, but I mean if you look at like how it would work in the practice, like if there will be people who get more wages, there'll be like then I don't know if that would really like solve issues like poverty, for example.
No, it won't necessarily solve
Yes.
them, but it's definitely a first step.
No,
towards
it's the
them.
first step, but
And it's
I
better than what we currently have, in which many countries are fighting with each other, in which there's a lot of geopolitical tension, which is just useless. The people that enforce this geopolitical tension, I'm sorry to say, are very narrow-sighted.
No, it's true, and I think
The world is facing larger problems than many politicians think.
Yeah, no, it's also all about, I think that you touch on those narrow sided views, and I think I really agree with that. I think that the key to like solving those things is that like that countries really help each other, and that there's like
Absolutely.
there's a certain understanding for education.
Absolutely.
Because I think we all very privileged here, all of us sitting here in the room, what did we see? And I think we have a really good education that impedes it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard, it's tough, yes. It's a nightmare in third term, especially looking at all of us here. But I mean, it does some good, and it gives us a very broad perspective. And I think that education essentially is the key here.
Absolutely.
Which is, of course, very difficult because some countries, like, there are certain, like, I believe, individuals who then don't strive for that, or, like, countries decide not to improve their education, and others countries try to then, like, I don't know, take some from them. It's difficult, of course.
I think there are a lot of steps prior to education, like things, super basic things as like access to the basic resources.
Yeah.
But even if you have an education, though, the majority of conflicts around the world are mostly based about identity. I feel like, and that there is a division in the world just because some people, because like you couldn't have practically one single country or a state.
No.
Because everyone feels different.
No,
And that's like, for example, now in Israel versus Palestine, it's an identity war about like one country's occupying one group of people is occupying the others because they feel different. And if this wasn't the case, there would be no problem if they felt like this within the same kind of.
So how this utopic world would look like is you would have one centralized world government which actually has authority. The thing we have right now, which is nearest to it, is the United Nations. Yet it doesn't have much authority over the political ways or the way in which a country is run.
Political,
So what I would want is a centralized government that imposes measures on what the governments of countries can and cannot do. Countries, the current countries, would almost become like states of the whole world. And then you would
intergovernmental organization
exactly,
rather
an
than a new
intergovernmental
state. Okay.
So it wouldn't solve identity issues, absolutely, but what it would solve is that you hopefully wouldn't have countries that want to take other countries' land, like Russia and Ukraine. if they were to be two states that are controlled by the same government, there is no point of them moving the border one way or the other.
Yeah, but then the question is, who is part of that government?
Yeah. That is why it is a utopic view. It is something you won't achieve. Yet if you achieve it, it's beautiful.
It's like communism.
and it'll get us to, it'll solve us many issues.
No, I think it's interesting that you said that because I mean you have the right ideas, I believe. I feel like it's a step in the right direction. Well, not really a step because we can't really do it, finalize it.
Yeah.
But
the best way to get here is through investing in education. That's my message. And as Nelson Mandela once said, I don't know the exact wording of off the top of my head, but he said something like the most powerful tool to conquer the world is education, and I very much agree.
No, I think that as well. That as we said here, I mean, there, as Theo said, of course, there are many ways that you have to like do it before and like before education. But I think that education really is the key, because if people would be more educated, they would have a more broader perspective.
Exactly.
They would understand certain things differently.
They wouldn't be narrow-sighted, and they would want to work with their neighbors
exactly.
Against
like they would understand that sometimes the greater good is better than the personal good, I believe. And I think it's gotten very difficult to achieve education being equal everywhere, because a lot of people had already we have a head start. So it's really like, I think if you talk about messages, I think my message is that we like as a like we all of us like who in our age, our century, we really have the opportunity, and it's also like the last chance pretty much, because looking at global warming and like that kind of stuff, it is really like our last straw, that we really try to improve education.
Hello guys, we're returning after a slight interruption from the Night Porter staff. Oh, this is a different day now, different environment. It's quite busy in here, so we're sorry if there are any additional noises. So let's get back into our conversation. What were we
Yes,
talking
good to
about,
be here again, gentlemen.
Thank you, Dante.
Hello boys.
Dante is now 18. It's not 17 anymore.
True.
That's right.
Great party.
Grown man.
To kick it off again, Dante, last time you were telling us about this idyllic view that you had of a whole sort of education plan on a worldwide scale. So I wanted to shift the focus from that into AC. So, and how do you think that idea and that
Well, we basically ended on the note that education can change the world.
Yeah. So how do you think that idea then applies to our context right now?
Like, how do you feel it's manifested here? Like, does it actually work?
Cool. So, yeah, I definitely think that is embedded into this school, because people from all over the world come here, as we all know, and they all bring together certain ideas, opinions, viewpoints, perspectives, values, and therefore we can learn from each other, and we can see both sides of the coin. Because if you're in a country, you'll read specific news dedicated to that country, and the news will be adjusted in a way that it's interesting for the reader of that country. In some instances, or if it's a political issue in which you're reading the news about, the stance in which your country is heavily influences the news and the way you perceive the issue, and therefore bringing together a group of people to work together that all have different viewpoints on similar matters really allows us to all learn from each other and see both sides of the coin, and therefore work better together towards a peaceful world. So it's a bit of a cliche. It says it in the mission, but to an extent it is actually true, and it works.
But did you have any experiences where this like kind of forced like what do we call it?
Diversity.
Forced diversity has like brought you into any arguments? Because
deliberate diversity.
People with different opinions sometimes. We need to learn how to argue with each other in a constructive way.
Right.
That's the whole reason this is a thing.
Well, arguing, maybe not, but asking questions and listening to whatever someone has to say, for sure. The fact that we share our rooms with 4 people from all different countries and even continents usually is really insane, and in a good way. And for example, last year I shared my room with someone from China and someone from the US, and hearing both their views on Taiwan, listening to both their views, really opened my eyes.
Yeah, I think it's especially interesting if you go and look at like the dorm perspectives, looking like at the different countries and the different like opinions based off that and where you come from. I think it's really interesting that what you said, that the dorms obviously make it as well like the experience so special, because you're four people from completely four different places, and then you meet so many people outside of your dorm. So I mean that really,
That's right.
yeah, that really connects. I feel like,
Right.
but that's what makes a
The beauty of school is you don't only have that within the dorm. The dorm is just a micro representation of that, but you have that all across campus.
Yeah, it's like whether I go to my econ class or my geography class
Or the football team,
or the football team,
or
like
council sessions.
there's so many different opinions all the
Yeah.
time about when a discussion happens. Even like there's always, like in my old school there were like, I feel like two perspectives, point of views maximum, and
Usually even one.
Yeah,
one.
it's crazy if you just live in the country where you were born.
Yeah,
It's usually
one-
all the same thing.
You see, it's an eye opener.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
and then here you have like, I don't know, everyone has a different point of perspective,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so.
And Dante, we're talking about councils, so we know that you're SLACC chair. How is that? Tell us more about that.
Well, how was that? It's not done yet. I'm stepping down on February 5th. So there's still about 2 months left. Yet, it's absolutely given me a lot. I've really enjoyed being SLACC chair. Yet it obviously also has taken a lot, and it's taken over a big part of my time and my experience at AC.
What do you think you have learned while being a SLACC chair? Something that maybe you did not expect.
Well, in the end, if you add up all task forces and you add up all the tech reps with whom you work with, and the DJs at SOS, and all reps, and the marketing team, the media team, the secretaries, there's about 40 people involved with the council. And keeping them together, delegating jobs, speaking to them, working on projects together, and organizing them has definitely learned me a lot on how to lead a team. And in addition to that, it has also brought me into many meetings. It has allowed me to have many conversations with many different groups of people, from which I've learned a lot. And lastly, through being SLACC chair, I've spoken and engaged with so many different groups on campus and done so many things with them, which has learned and taught me things such as which has just allowed me to meet many new people on campus and once again work together with them on different things.
Yeah, and I also feel like that, like, obviously I knew you before a little bit, and now I know you quite a bit as well. And I feel like before you were like, one thing I realized immediately was that your email writing got a lot better.
That's right.
With the rise of ChatGPT.
That's right.
I feel like it's done this, like, when you wrote a recommendation for the startup I'm working in, you said like this amazing recommendation, and like I first looked at it,
That's right.
is this really Dante? Like, I feel like, that's one of the things you took away, but also as a person, like, you've really developed.
Yeah.
Like
You're forced.
teams, you work so good well. Like I see in the football team, like, you work really well in the team, and I think that really, like, that shows how impactful this is. And I think it'll cost the student body if you're rep, if you're chair, cost more if you're chair because you have more responsibility. But this leadership with many different people, and therefore there are many different cultures and nations, I think that's really like a key,
Absolutely, and it has just forced me to speak to a lot of people and to write to a lot of people, but yet simultaneously to also listen to a lot of people and to read a lot of the things people were telling me, writing me, or saying within the school. So that's another way in which it has expanded my capabilities. And that's not only skills you acquire through being a chair, any way of engagement within the school, whether it's being a rep of a council, being part of a team, a sports team, whether it's being part of Hot to Go, or whether it's being a cast leader, any form of engagement will somehow
The Coach Podcast.
you things, because it encourages you and forces you to do things you wouldn't usually do.
And I wanted to take you back briefly to when you were talking about diversity at the school, and like deliberate diversity and so on and so forth. And I mean, there has been like a sort of discussion maybe last year about like SLACC as a council, and how in comparison to other councillors, how in comparison to other councils, how in comparison to other councils, it perhaps lacks the same sort of large range of people, and how the demographic might be at times a bit like homogeneous or like from the same type. Do you think that's true? And do you think, because I personally think that got better, but it's still, there's still some underlying sort of dynamic.
Absolutely. So yes, the people involved with the council and the demographic they're from definitely is a lot more similar of all people within the council than within other councils. I would definitely say our council has a lot less diversity than others, yet it has gotten a lot better. If I look at our second year reps, all 16 SLACC reps were just a friend group. That no longer is the case. Yet it's difficult to overcome that, because in the end they are elected. Yet a way in which we can try to get rid of this title or this nickname of being exclusive every now and then is through trying our hardest to organize as much inclusive events as possible. And we've really been trying to do that. So for AC Olympics, as I'm sure you're aware, we included the Just Dance to ensure that there was something for people who aren't as much into sports as others. We made sure that there was a minimum amount of girls required on the teams for all sports, so there was a better gender balance. Additionally, we also conveyed that the point was not solely to win, yet to bond with your house. And in addition to that, we've held other events in which we've really tried to be inclusive, such as during the Valentine's Ball last year. We obviously had the ball in the Bradenstoke, yet we collaborated with the Hideout team beforehand to do something in the dining hall, where the jazz band was playing for all people who weren't interested. So yeah, SLACC definitely has a less diverse group of people representing it. It is really hard to get rid of that. Yet the only thing we can do to get rid of that, which is what we've been doing and which we will continue doing, is through just organize inclusive things within the school and make sure what we organize isn't an inclusive event, but also has inclusive elements to it, such as a gender balance within the sports teams.
Yeah.
But I feel like the roles of different councils within the whole school overall just attracts different kind of people.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Like for example,
And that's just an intrinsic thing, and like there's nothing you can do about it. Just different people want to do different things, and
Absolutely.
your background
Exactly.
really
And-
affects what you want to
Exactly,
do.
and SLACC mainly aims to provide entertainment on campus. So all people that become involved within our council are really centered in or really dedicated to increasing the amount of entertainment on campus. And if that is something which you're passionate about, then you are very likely also going to be a person that tries to find other sources of entertainment as well on the weekends, by perhaps going to the pub, by perhaps actively dancing around at or socializing after coach, more than perhaps demographics from other councils would, due to our values.
Yeah, and I think that, like, especially when we talk about diversity and in the diversity in councils, as you said, it's like a both process. So I feel like, excuse me, I feel like the vote progress tries to take it away, but obviously it's very difficult. But also the student body votes for what they think is best, and I think by that we kind of achieve diversity, because not everyone is equal, and therefore you have like different diversity.
Yeah.
But the point Michael made, like, I feel like, I mean, Dante, Michael, and I were on different councils, and I feel like it was just a different vibe. But it's obviously also, as you said, because of the interest, I suppose, at the valley.
Dante, was your older sister, because we know you have an older sister, obviously.
That's right.
Was she a
How do you
chair?
know?
I know you
Stalked on Instagram.
Was she a chair? Was she a chair of a council? as well?
No, she was not the chair of a council. She was, fun fact, a SLACC rep.
Oh, okay.
They did
Cool fun fact.
So you
they-
got the inspiration
exactly.
from her.
I
Shout
got
out.
inspiration from her. I heard about SLACC before I came to
Shout out.
school.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to her, Francesca Houben.
Jessica Houben.
Don't be texting her on Instagram now.
Don't do that.
But
Don't worry about it.
but yeah, I heard about SLACC before coming to AC, and then when I came to AC, I immediately felt
Yeah.
the connection with Gaucho and its values. Yet we are different. She was a rep, but she was also a peer
She was an
listener.
academic weapon.
She was an
as well,
academic
right?
weapon. That's right.
Dante's
She
academic weapon as
graduated
well.
with a 43.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
So will you,
You
dude.
need to live up to that,
No,
or not really?
I do not. I think anyone should put the bar for where they want to go based on their own abilities and strengths. My sister just is an academic weapon. My ambition is to make the most of what I have in me, and whatever IB score that will be, I will be satisfied with.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be a 43. I think it'll still be something good. Yet I think no one should look over their shoulder to see what someone next to them is doing and try to compete and based on that, based on what the person next to them or the person across from them, their neighbor or their sister or their friend is doing, that should not influence where you want to go or where you put your bar. Where you put your bar should be based on what you want to achieve yourself, and should also be based on what you have in you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point, especially when you think about it. Like, everyone has like their own strength, and I've heard this theory. I don't. It was on the way to your party, Dante. Funny enough, someone said, I think it was Sufbeam, that everyone has like their own small talent, but you don't know what it really is. It could be something super small, like
Absolutely.
every single time. Like, just as an example, or like, you know, the hair sits when you go through the hair, it goes every single time. And like, those are things I feel like everyone has different things, and like, you shouldn't look at others. You should just focus on yourself and do the
Yeah.
things you want to do. And especially like looking back at it, I mean, when you're a SLACC chair, you obviously have. I mean, like, I went next to you when you like walked up the whole main drive, you know, just texting different people, like, you know, trying to coordinate things, and different people telling you different stuff. I mean, that's not always easy. I mean, you also obviously in a leadership role take a lot of criticism onto you. I feel that when people come up to me, why didn't I make the squad? But I feel like you made it. You feel it in a different way, maybe a bigger way. So how do you deal with that then? If like
Yeah,
just
sure.
negative effects
So-
come upon.
So as I said, I've learned a lot from being SLACC chair. Being SLACC chair has given me a lot, yet it has also costed me a lot. Now that is because to start with, it has just costed an insane amount of time. Gone. So yeah, being SLACC chair has definitely given me a lot. As I said, I've learned a lot from it, and it's given me more than just a learning experience. It's also given me fun, and just an opportunity to do something for the community. Yet simultaneously, it's costed me a lot. One thing obviously is that you will get critique frequently. Yet it's part of the job, and whenever I do get it, I try to listen to it as much as possible. But is it easy? No, definitely not. And has it hit me sometimes? Yes, absolutely. Yet that is part of the job. It's what you sign up for. And wherever you go in life, you'll hear critique, and sometimes you'll hear more critique than other times. In some places, in some positions, you'll hear more of it than in others. Yet it's just part of the job, and the only thing I can do about it is run SLACC in a way that as little as possible critique is provoked.
I agree. I think, as you said, many things that occur in this place are like representative of things that happen at a greater scale outside the school.
Yeah.
And you like having a leadership role, I think it does have a lot of drawbacks and it takes a lot of time, but ultimately it does give you like a great set of skills.
I'm really happy I did it. So yeah, you get critique every now and then. It costs you a lot of time. It also costs you a lot of energy. You sometimes, have to be a bit strict to people. You sometimes have to engage with conversations in which you wouldn't want to engage. You sometimes have to organize things which you really don't feel like doing, or it just simply causes you to miss a deadline. Yet overall, it's it's allowed me to learn a lot. It has encouraged me to engage with different members of the community. I have also enjoyed it. That was really something that kept me going, and more importantly, it's allowed me to do something for the community.
So, Dante, another question I wanted to ask you is, who is your role model? Who has inspired you to be the way that you are today? Tell us.
There isn't just one of them. I want to move away from the conversation related to SLACC, because SLACC doesn't define my personality. Although I'm sure many people on campus do think that. But the previous SLACC chair is really a role model to me. I really try to be the person he is. Aaron is his name. Aaron, shout out to you.
Shout out to Glasgow.
Yeah. I'll send his podcast to him, let him listen to it. But I really admire him. He was in many ways a very inspirational person, not only in the way he ran SLACC, but also in the person he was and the way in which he guided me after I became SLACC chair. Other than that, my dad is also someone who I really admire. I feel like many people really have a great sense of admiration for their parents. I do too, for both my parents, yet specifically to my dad, because he just has many traits which I also would like to have, and I just have so much respect for him for just a variety of reasons. Then on the more global scale, Bill Gates, I think, is a really inspirational person.
It's valid, bro.
I mean, obviously, this isn't just me. Many people think he's inspirational.
My guy said Bill Gates.
But Broski was really successful in his work, and not only was he successful as that in what he was doing, he was also successful in giving back to the community. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, through all the donations he's made, through the books he's written.
Also, what he's given like society. I mean,
absolutely,
he really moved forward the whole world. And I think like you can step aside like achievements, like money, all of that. But what he really like did, like factually, is one of the richest people alive. But I think what the most important thing is, he's really someone who moved the whole world forward. He invented something and he moved the whole world forward. And I think very limited people have achieved that, and he's every one of them. Founding Microsoft. Moving along that scale, making IT what it is today. I think that's something not anyone could achieve, and he's done it. So that's very impressive.
What I admire about him is he was really successful at his profession, and then not only used it for his own benefit, yet ended up giving a large part of it back to society. And then lastly, I also have a great sense of admiration for the previous Dutch Prime Minister. Mark Rutte is his name. And that is because he's been the Prime Minister of the Netherlands for the past 13 years, the longest one to have ever been in that position in the Netherlands. And I am just so impressed how he has been a Prime Minister for all Dutch people, and not just the people that vote his party or that uphold the same values as his, yet he really was trying to make an effort for every single group of people in the country. So yeah, those four people I've great sense of admiration for.
Yeah. Then Dante, to wrap it up today, our signature question for the end: how would you define success?
Okay, that's a beautiful question, and I think that because it has a very beautiful answer, which is that there is no way to define success, and that is the beauty of success. And that is because what success means differs from person to person. Everyone has a different perception of it. Everyone crosses a different path to reach what success is in their eyes. And it can also be achieved through a variety of ways. And the actual definition of it itself also differs in many ways. For a businessman, success might mean earning a lot of money. For a teacher, it might mean being able to guide their children in the best possible way. But it can also be setting up a family or doing something for society. It can be interpreted and shaped in so many ways that there is no one way to define what success is.
Yeah, and what would it be for you though? Like, do you have any idea at all?
Well, ultimately happiness. Yet that is something which is achieved
Through
based
many ways, yeah.
upon many different ways, through combining them, through adding them. But I think being a very committed person to my career definitely would make me a successful person. I think giving back something to society would also make me a successful person. Starting a family that is happy and that is coherent would also make me feel like I'm successful, and one day hopefully raising children that become
Just like you, Dante. Okay.
it's not like me. They have more potential.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for coming today.
And sorry about the technical difficulties.
No, thanks for having me, boys. It's I've really enjoyed it, and good luck on all future episodes. I encourage you all to listen to them. I heard some rumors that there's some cool people coming soon. So thanks for having me. And peace out.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.